The digital asset investor. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to make an announcement about concerning Brad Garlinghouse. It's not going to be what you think, but I think it'll be exciting for you and for me anyway. But first, I want to talk to you about what's been going on here. This I think Coinbase came out with this little tweet here on the 13th of July, and this has had all of us a little irritated. They announced that they were considering adding a few assets to Coinbase. And for those of us that have been around a while, Coinbase, of course, they didn't list XRP as one of the digital assets that they were considering. And it wasn't until this weekend that I truly did not know for 100% sure that there was a beef between Coinbase and Ripple. But I saw one of the executives from Ripple send out a tweet, and it made it pretty clear that there is a beef. And so I guess there is a beef between Coinbase and Ripple. But that's not what my video today is about. Today, I wanted to talk to you about the big picture and the small picture. You've all heard the saying, don't miss the forest for the trees. Well, I want to talk to you about the forest. Coinbase and all these little distractions such as Coinbase are the trees. And it is not anything in the big picture. And that's what I wanted to go over with you. Some of you that have not been listening to me for long know, because I've said in the past, I used to be a financial advisor with one of the top 3 firms on Wall Street. I've never said the name because I don't know if there's any kind of liability by me doing that, and so I just leave that alone. But in the year, I believe it was 2001 is when I became a financial advisor and took the Series 7 and the Series 31, and I was a financial advisor for a good period of time. But anyway, that's not the point of this. I want to talk to you about the big picture of what's going to happen for Ripple, and more specifically for XRP. And this is what I'm getting at. Today, this came out. Market reacts as $6 trillion asset manager BlackRock eyes crypto space. Okay, BlackRock is a massive company, and they manage a ton of money. And this is, so you understand, my past as a financial advisor is really the reason that I spotted what was coming with the digital asset industry in the first place. Because and I did a video on this a long time ago, as a financial advisor, you look at the different asset classes, and you're taught to, when you meet with people about investing their money, you're taught to allocate their assets based on their risk tolerance, and you spread that amongst the different asset classes based on what that risk tolerance is, such as stocks being an asset class, bonds, gold and silver is an asset class. There are a few asset classes, and when I originally saw digital assets, that's what I saw is a new asset class. And here in the last couple of years, for the first time, they have started to refer on CNBC and some of the mainstream media. They've started to refer to digital assets as a new asset class. Well, what does that mean? When something is declared a new asset class, I'll tell you what it means in the big picture. This is the forest we're talking about now. What a new asset class means is that companies like the one you're looking at right here, BlackRock, it means Morgan Stanley, it means Goldman Sachs, it means Fidelity, it means all of the huge companies that make money off of investing other people's money, see a monster opportunity, which is digital assets. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to take you through just how big this forest is. And the other thing I was going to show you before we go further into that is the other huge piece of news, which is CBOE may finally, this was from last week, CBOE may finally get its holy grail Bitcoin ETF by 2019. Well, yeah, that says Bitcoin, but make no mistake, when this will happen, the SEC has not approved the first one yet. Whether it's this one or the next one that's applied for, they're going to start approving these applications. And let me explain to you, those of you that don't know what's going to happen when this domino falls. Yeah, the first one could have Bitcoin only in it, but that's not going to last very long. Sooner rather than later, in my opinion, most of the investment firms will realize how much better XRP is than Bitcoin in terms of the technology and how big it's going to be. But that's irrelevant to what I'm talking about here. Even if they keep XRP in third place, which would be crazy, even if they do, these ETFs that will be being created, and it's not just ETFs, it's mutual funds as well. It's all sorts of financial products, including derivatives. But when they do that, imagine the money that I'm fixing to show you, that all of these funds and ETFs and hedge funds, the money that is involved. If you imagine all of that money coming in, or even 1% of it coming in, and some percentage of that money being allocated to XRP as a third in line in terms of digital assets. And that's assuming it'll be in third. I believe it'll be first, probably in the next 2 months it'll be in first. But let's go through this just a minute, because this is what's going to happen. This is a list of mutual fund families, and this is just in the United States. This isn't even including Europe and other parts of the world. These are just a list of fund families, and you'll recognize some of them here. If you got American funds, Barron funds, Credit Suisse, there's a whole list. John Hancock, JP Morgan has their own funds. Imagine most, which it will be most, because when the first domino falls, they will all get in line. They will all, if they're not already doing it, PIMCO you've probably heard of. If they're not already doing it, they will be doing it. And just to give you a little background, when I was a financial advisor, many mornings, the first thing that would happen is we would be brought breakfast, and breakfast might be brought by, let's say for an example, I remember PIMCO, which I saw down here. PIMCO was a fund company, and they would send their fund salesman, and all he was doing is going around from one brokerage firm to the next and explaining to you about their family of funds or their new fund, and he would provide breakfast, and in return he's trying to talk all of these financial advisors into selling his funds. Now imagine on a worldwide basis all of these mutual funds being paraded into all of these brokerage firms, everybody from Merrill Lynch to Morgan Stanley to Goldman Sachs. Imagine how monstrous that's going to be, because it will happen. There will be one of those salesmen that's holding the new crypto or the digital asset fund for PIMCO or MetLife or Schwab. It's going to happen. That's where all of this is going. And so imagine that when that begins, you as an early investor in XRP, when we had to go to Coinbase and then open a Binance account and do all these complicated moves just to get in. Imagine you sitting there when the world light switch flips on, and this is all going on in the financial world. Okay, let's look at how big that is. Mutual funds. This is some statistics I looked up. This was, as of 2016, there's approximately $16.34 trillion in mutual funds. That's just mutual funds. Well, let's look at exchange-traded funds. And for those of you that don't know the difference between a mutual fund and an exchange-traded fund, first of all, mutual funds have been around a lot longer. Exchange-traded funds is a newer product that came out. I want to say, let's see if it says here. I'm not sure, but I think exchange-traded funds started back in the 90s. But anyway, a mutual fund, if you put your money into let's say a stock mutual fund, and that stock mutual fund may have the Dow 30 stocks, the top 30 stocks in the Dow, the Dow in that fund. Well, in a mutual fund, they can buy and sell those stocks. They can buy and sell out of them. And so it's got different tax implications than, and I'm no tax advisor, I'm just telling you what I've learned. But the exchange traded funds work differently in that when you put, if it has those same 30 stocks that are in it, the money goes in and it just sits in those 30 stocks and rides it out. There is no buying and selling out of those stocks. Well, there's buying because new money's coming in, but there is no in and out of those stocks inside of an ETF or an exchange traded fund. But if you look here, let's look, these are the exchange traded funds, and the same thing in every brokerage firm across the world, the same thing is going on with exchange traded funds. There are people that work for iShares who are going into these brokerage firms and buying all these brokers breakfast and buying them donuts and then talking, and they will be talking about their new, it could be iShares, it could be Vanguard, Power Shares is another one. You'll see the long list of these are exchange traded fund companies. Some of them are also mutual fund companies, but some of them just came out to be exchange traded funds. But just imagine one day there will be that salesman from these from hundreds of exchange traded fund companies, and they will have in their hand a pretty new folder with the cryptocurrency or the digital asset exchange ETF. They might have a fancy name for it, the digital asset 200 or 10 or whatever. I believe if you're in the top 15 digital assets on CoinMarketCap, you'll be included in many of these things. But you got to do your research on that. But this, again, this is coming. As I said, the ETF market is much smaller than the mutual fund market. It's more like, this is from 2017. It's like 3 trillion right now. Let's move on. Okay, like I said, the broker dealers are selling all of these things, and these broker dealers are also getting in the game. I've seen that Fidelity is now, I saw an article not too long ago that I talked to you about on here, but just look at this list of broker dealers and how much money they manage. 5.4 trillion, 2.7 trillion, 800 billion, 800 billion, 600 billion. This is all these company names that you know: Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Edward Jones, Ameriprise Financial, TD Ameritrade, Raymond James, AXA Advisors. I mean, Wells Fargo, all of these names. And let me go back. Everybody's crying over Coinbase this weekend, but this is the big picture. This is the ball. This is the reason I came into this space in the first place. This is the big picture. This is the reason that you stand to have your life changed. All right, moving on. Investment banks, the largest investment banks in the world. These are the people that don't just sell to their clients these huge investments, but they do it at the institutional level, and they also put these products together like ETFs and mutual funds and all of this. So think about these, and when they come into the space, and many of them that have announced, like Goldman Sachs has, Morgan Stanley's been mentioned as coming into digital assets. JP Morgan, they've kept their cards a little closer to their vest, but I believe they're actually involved in Ripple. There's articles about that. Credit Suisse, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Barclays, Citigroup, Deutsche Bank, UBS, Wells Fargo. All of these people are coming. They're all coming. That is, I can't stress to you enough how big, how huge all of this is, because regardless of all the little tiny pieces of news that we get bogged down in occasionally when it comes to XRP, the fact is you're in the best digital asset that's ever been created if you're an XRP investor, and it would be like owning a share of, it would be like being a shareholder in a stock before Wall Street opens for business. If you can imagine, that's what we're a part of. And then I wanted to go over, I looked up hedge funds because that's another part of this. Just look at, these are just some of the sectors that hedge funds across the world are invested in equity. Just in equities alone, hedge funds have $304 billion in them. In fixed income, they've got $504 billion in them. Now think about that. As of this morning, I believe the digital asset market on CoinMarketCap was around $260 billion, $265 billion. These guys, they could just throw just a tiny percentage of what they've got, and that $265 billion would become $2 to $5 trillion with just a little tiny bit. And all we are in right now, and all of this depression that I've seen out there by some people about the digital asset market, I see so many, and I've even seen some of my fellow YouTubers seem to be getting depressed, and it makes me sick. I'm not sick about the market. It makes me sick to see people getting depressed when they aren't taking that step back and looking at what's coming. This is the biggest financial tidal wave that has ever hit the United States in my lifetime, and I'm 44 years old right now. There is nothing that has ever come to the financial market like this. The internet is not even bordering on what's headed our way. Okay, now talk about switching gears. Now I sent out a tweet earlier, and it was about, my tweet was about Brad Garlinghouse, and that I was going to make an announcement. And I'm sure there's many of you out there who believe that that I know Brad Garlinghouse in some way. Well, before I talk about Brad Garlinghouse, I want to tell you a little bit briefly about what makes me tick. I don't get into my personal life much, and that's intentional. But one thing that is a big deal for me, I have two boys, and they of course are important to me, as well as my wife. But the most important thing in my life to me is teaching these boys what's going to make them successful and have a better and help them to have a better life than I have had when I'm dead and gone. That is the sum of what's important in my daily life. Well, in order to baseball has been a very good part of my teaching those boys about how to become the best, and how to look at some of the most important things in life. Now, my father was very good about teaching me some of these things and turning me on to some of the things that I need to read and listen to. But if I had to sum up the two things in a person's life, and right now I'm talking more in terms of success and your business life. I'm not talking about your personal life or your religion, but I don't get into those things on my YouTube channel. I see my part in having this YouTube channel, for when I'm speaking to you guys, I'm telling you the truth, and I'm telling you things that every part of my heart believes are going to happen. If I didn't believe what I was saying, I wouldn't have this YouTube channel. Everything I tell you, I truly believe, and I've put my money where my mouth is. Well, that is that XRP is going to be huge. Now I want to talk to you about success and how I am training my sons. I have a 12-year-old and I have a now 6-year-old. When my 12-year-old was 7 years old, he was an average baseball player, just an average baseball player, and he was middle of the pack in Little League. This is a true story. This actually happened. I noticed that some of the dads their kids were better than the other kids, and that they were getting lessons and this type of thing for baseball. And so I walked up to one of the dads and I said, well, where do you go to get lessons? And the guy would literally he said, "Oh, you can get lessons a lot of places." And it was kind of like he didn't want to answer the question because he didn't want my son to be as good as his son, I guess. I don't know. But for some reason, that one thing triggered something in me. And I made up my mind, not necessarily that I was going to go get lessons, but that I was going to teach my son how to be the best baseball player that he could possibly be. And so I went on and I read articles. I read an article. What really inspired me is my mother-in-law gave me an article about Freddie Freeman. And he said that the way he got good at baseball was that he went out and hit baseballs with his father all the time. And his mother had died of skin cancer. And so that was like a bonding thing. And so that gave me the idea. But it also reminded me of a few things that my dad had taught me. So what I did, and what I have done from then until today, is I made up my mind that 3 times a week, year round, I was going to take my son out. And I started my son when he was 7 years old. 3 times a week, my son has hit 2 buckets of baseballs, and he's done it 3 times a week, year round, not just during baseball season, but he's done it year round since that time. My now 6-year-old, since I had my system perfected, my 6-year-old, I started him when he was 5 last year. He has gone through 1 complete year of hitting 2 buckets of baseballs 3 days a week. Both of them have done that, and I will do that with both of them as long as my arm does not fall off. I will do that with them until they are off to college. Now, why am I doing all this? Well, I'm doing it, a lot of the reason I'm doing it is because of some things my dad taught me when I was growing up. And I'm going to go over those with you. And there's a reason I'm going through all this with you that has to do with Brad Garlinghouse. There are 2 things that my dad always taught me were the most important things when it comes to success and achieving things in life. Now, part of the reason I'm going over this with you guys is to make the point that I'm going to make about Brad Garlinghouse. But the other reason I'm going over this is because in the XRP world and the Ripple world, there's a lot of young people that are listening to me right now. I'm one of the older people in this space that talks about this all the time. But to you younger people, I'm fixing to tell you the 2 things that are the most important things for you in being successful in life. Now, success, what you define as success, that's up to you. But I'm going to tell you the way I look at it, and the way I was taught to look at it, and the way I believe that is right to look at it. And it, first of all, involves goals. I've told you about The Strangest Secret before. It was done by Earl Nightingale. I encourage all, especially young people, I encourage you to go and you can listen to it on YouTube. Just type in The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale. And one of Earl Nightingale's quotes that's right here in front of you that says it as succinctly as possible is, people who have goals succeed because they know where they're going. It's that simple. Now, when I was a financial advisor, there were guys around me who made no money, and there were guys around me who made $1 million a year. And I can tell you firsthand, the one thing that the most successful people had in common is when you walked up to their desk, they had their goal written down right in front of them. Usually it was typed out and it was taped to their computer, and it was so they could see it every day of their life. Now, with goals, the interesting thing about goals is that most people go their entire life without ever deciding what they're going to do. They talk about what they would like to do. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'd like to be like Donald Trump," or "I'd like to be rich like this guy or this guy." But they never even take the time to write it down. And I want to illustrate why you write it down and why having a goal is so important. It's like, and this is another Earl Nightingale quote, and what he said was, think of a ship with the complete voyage mapped out and planned. The captain and the crew know exactly where the ship is going and how long it will take. It has a definite goal, and 9,999 times out of 10,000, it will get there. Well, imagine here you are, and you're sitting here with your life, and most people never even think about what it is that they want to accomplish, much less write it down. But imagine this: you go on a cruise ship, and they've mapped out that they know exactly, almost to the minute, all the ports that ship is going to hit and when it's going to leave, and they've got a whole itinerary. And for that reason, they are able to achieve the exact goal and do it over and over and over. Well, life's no different. It's about having goals and having a plan over, and you don't even have to have the plan in the beginning. The plan can come to you over time. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk to you about today. But there's one other thing and this has to do with my sons and their baseballs, that's as important as the goal itself. And I'm fixing to show you something that you should print out, and you should or type it out and put it on your wall. When I used to work with my dad, and he had a home building company, and every morning he would read this quote. And the quote, he made us memorize it. And it's the one thing that is as important as the goal itself. It's by Calvin Coolidge. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan "Press On" has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. And I read that quote to you because that is what I have taught my sons with baseball. These two things is they have a goal of being the best baseball player they can possibly be, and they know that the only way that they will get there is through persistence and never giving up and working at it harder than anyone else. And so now we arrive at my Brad Garlinghouse moment. I was thinking the other day about this, and I had a thought go through my mind of how cool would it be to interview Brad Garlinghouse. And I immediately, as probably a lot of YouTubers or a lot of people that would want to interview someone that's as high profile as Brad Garlinghouse, my first thought that went through my mind was, well, that's probably a long shot, you know. And then I looked over at the wall, and I tweeted it out a week or two ago. I looked over at my wall, and on my wall I have a drawing that my 6-year-old did of XRP, and he wrote XRP and $500. He brought it to me the other night. I had no idea he was even listening to me talk about XRP or that he knew what it was. But I looked at his drawing, and when I did, I said, you know what? Here I am, and I'm teaching my sons about how to have goals and how to be persistent, and that they could accomplish anything if they have a goal and they work steadily towards it. And here I am in my mind automatically discounting that I would be able to interview somebody like Brad Garlinghouse. So today my announcement is that I'm laying down the gauntlet. I don't know Brad Garlinghouse. Brad Garlinghouse does not know me. I don't know if he knows about my YouTube channel. But what I am doing today is I'm setting the goal. I'm going to interview Brad Garlinghouse in person. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I'm going to do it. And today, you're going to be part. Right now, I'm fixing to do this live. This is the first salvo of me getting my Brad Garlinghouse interview, and I'm going to put it on this YouTube channel, and you'll get to see it here. And I don't want to do it via Skype. I will fly, like I've typed out this tweet to Brad Garlinghouse. This is the first point of contact I've done. And I'm announcing this to you guys on this channel because you're going to get to see it every step of the way. And I will not give up until I'm in the room with Brad Garlinghouse. I would love to go out to San Francisco and see the headquarters and shake their hand and thank them for giving me the XRP opportunity, and while I'm there, do the interview. And so I'll fly there anytime, whenever he wants to do it. But I typed out this tweet because every step of the way on this channel, you're going to get to see. I haven't decided, but I may tweet at the end of every single video. I may send him a new tweet and let you guys tell me what I should say to him. But from this point forward, until Brad Garlinghouse agrees to do an interview, I'm going to be consistently and persistently talking about it and doing active things towards that end. And I really would appreciate your help, because some of you may even know him, and help me encourage him to do it via Twitter or email or other methods. So I'm asking you all out there, let's make this happen, because not only do I want to show those of you out there, especially the young people, that once you set your mind to something and you don't give up, you can do it no matter what it is, and nothing's too big. But I want to be able to tell my sons, I did it. I did exactly what I've told you guys to do with your baseball. So here goes the tweet. Now, I'm going to send this. All right, the tweet's gone. All right. And now, I want to tell you, I am the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. I want y'all to please subscribe and hit the like button. And if you don't have your Ledger Nano S, it's the only safe way to store digital assets. I'm going to keep telling you this, okay? It's a hard wallet. Those of you that don't know, go in the link of my description and you can go straight to their website and buy one. It is the only safe way to hold your digital assets. Okay, y'all, thanks for listening. I am out of here.